Barnaby Joyce sworn in as Deputy Prime Minister once again by the Governor-General today at Government House after the spill. I was joined a bit earlier in the day by the Deputy Leader of the National Party, David Littleproud. Deputy Nationals Leader David Littleproud, thanks for your time after a big 24 hours. There was this vote for the spill in the party room yesterday. Did you vote for the spill of the leadership?
Look, out of respect to the current leader and the former leader, I don't discuss what I did or anyone else did in our party room. Our party room is sacrosanct and it should be treated that way.
But what about how you would have handled the situation if things went differently? So if McCormack didn't put his hand up, would you have put your hand up?
Well, the only public statements I made about leadership or the party room is that I wouldn't contest a leadership contest against Michael McCormack. He was the Deputy Prime Minister and I wanted to remain consistent with that, true to that. And that's all I'll say about what happens in our party room. Nothing else should be said about our party room. It's a sacrosanct room that should be treated not just by me, but by all of us.
So you won't say which way you voted?
No, that's not respectful to the current leader nor the previous leader. I'm consistent in what I've said and I don't intend to discuss National Party matters outside the party room.
This is not a party room matter, this is a matter of David Littleproud. Did you want the job?
Every one of the 21 of us in the National Party, I think, want the job, but sometimes it's not your time, and it's not your time. It may never be your time, and I'm comfortable with that. But we all have aspirations to lead the party, all 21 of us. But if it doesn't happen, you've got to still be content with what the political gods have given you, and I can tell you I've probably been given more than any others. So I'm very content that I've still got the opportunity, firstly and foremost, to be a federal member of Parliament to represent Maranoa, but also to be given a portfolio of agriculture, which is sort of the holy grail of being in the National Party. So I've been blessed more than anybody.
So you would have put your hand up?
I'm not going to speculate, but I've been consistent about my views and my comments around my position of whether I would have contested for the leadership, and I wanted to stay true to that, and I will stay true to that.
Has Barnaby Joyce changed since last time he was leader?
I think so, and even he's said that. I mean, obviously there are those that are already questioning around matters of Barnaby's past, but what Barnaby has said quite openly and honestly is that he's learnt from that, and I think what we need to do is give him the opportunity to prove that, and I'm confident that he will.
How will the change go down with women, not just in the broader electorate, but specifically within the National Party? We've already heard from a couple of senior national women who are dismayed at the decision by the party room.
Yeah, I think actions will speak louder than words, and I think what Barnaby needs to be provided is the opportunity to show those actions, to show he's got it right, and I'm confident he will. I think he's learnt from that. He's demonstrating as much as he can now, but I think time will show, and I think he just needs to be given that opportunity, and I think that's only fair, to be given that opportunity to prove it, and he's now got the platform to do that, and I think he should be given the opportunity too.
What policy change can we expect under Barnaby Joyce?
Oh, look, I think the Nationals will continue to obviously just try and get first and foremost regional Australia's fair share, and you can only do that if you're at the table cutting the checks, and that's why it's important that we have the right representation at the cabinet table and the executive positions of government.
Is the climate policy potentially one you can leverage to get more for the bush?
Well, we've got to see what it is first, and I think this is the thing where everyone's talking about net zero's 2050. The Prime Minister's made it clear that he's got to be not only honest with his party room but also ours about how we get there and who pays for it. Well, no one's seen that detail yet. No one knows what that will look like. So we're not going to.
The point is, it's not so much about paying for it, is it? Because Meat and Livestock Australia, the Cattle Council, Farmers Federation, all National Party groups, they're all saying net zero by 2050 at the latest.
Well, what I think they forget is that for regional Australians, they've paid the bill of this country's social licence to get us where we are.
And we didn't get paid. They're regional Australians.
No, but with respect, we've done the heavy lifting. We didn't get paid for that last piece. What happened was that we've had property rights stripped away from Australian farmers, and they took it on the chin. The federal government paid state governments. There was nothing in compensation for those property rights taken away from farmers, and they copped it. They copped the bill for the social conscience of this country. And we not only, if we're going to make money on this next round, we have to square the ledger on what happened previously.
But there are huge opportunities. Do you accept for,
exactly.
for cattle, for farming, soil carbon? I mean, if you look at the carbon price in Europe, it's about $90 per tonne now. Our emissions reduction fund's about 25 or thereabouts. It's only going one way, and if the farmers can as you say, be there when you're cutting the checks, there's actually a huge opportunity. The farmers get it, the Nats don't.
Well, I don't think that's right. We get it all right, but we're not going to trade ourselves away until we see the detail and see what we can get. That's just good business principles. I don't know how many deals you've done, but you don't give away your end price straight up. So, you know, we're going to look at it. We're going to see what we can get and make sure that no one's hurting, but we also start to square that ledger, because we've copped it in the neck in regional Australia for everyone to sleep soundly in metropolitan Australia, and it's time that our mob got repaid for it.
And, I mean, there's also, but you accept that there are opportunities there for the farming sector.
We've created, it's the Nats that are trying to create them around changing some of the carbon farming so that there aren't those perverse outcomes where we're just seeing whole properties in Western Queensland, New South Wales locked up, and people walk away from Sydney and just make a passive income while destroying those communities. That has to change. We're trying to create a biodiversity stewardship, not to lock up country, but to actually rejuvenate and pay our farmers for it. And obviously the soil carbon. So the Nats.
So there's an upside. There's also a downside, isn't there, if we don't? With the border tariffs, the European Commission putting a proposal on the 14th of July.
Yeah, but
a couple of weeks away.
But let's put this in perspective.
Taxes on imports from countries that don't commit to that sort of ambition.
But even in the EU, of the 27 EU states, 21 might make their 2030 commitment, yet they're saying to us, just don't worry about 2030, just worry about 2050. I'm sorry, you've got to have some values and principles that you can stand behind. We're going to meet and beat 2030. Now we're saying if we're going to go to 2050, we've got to tell you how we're going to get there and how we pay for it. But also, if you want to go to 2050, let's also put this into perspective. Of the 130 countries that are signed up to net zero by 2050, only 14 can give a detailed pathway to getting there. So at the moment, it's a platitude. So Australia's saying if we're going to sign up to it, we have to be honest with not only our public, but also the global community, that how we get there and who pays for it. And I think that's what the Australian public want to know before anyone signs up to it. And I think that's a story the Australian Labor Party found out at the last election, because they were committing to it, but couldn't tell you how they're going to get there and who's going to pay for it. So Australians are pretty smart, and they don't want spin. They actually want to know how and who's going to pay.
With a change of leader, often there are changed ministerial responsibilities. Darren Chester's Minister for Veterans. Should you have a new Veterans Affairs Minister a month before a Royal Commission? Should he stay?
Well, those are questions that obviously Barnaby will work through over the coming couple of days, and we'll obviously be working with the Prime Minister around our coalition agreement and what that looks like. So that feeds into it around ministerial positions, but ultimately there'll be a decision for Barnaby. He'll need to make that, and I'm sure he'll consider that in the coming couple of days.
And finally, we saw this UNESCO decision to put the reef on an in danger list. This is, obviously, you're a proud Queenslander. The government's going to challenge that. What did you make of that particular move and blindsiding the government from UNESCO?
It was ridiculous. I mean, here we have an international organisation tucked away in New York, making assessments on us over here in Queensland without any science, without actually doing proper due diligence, is just ridiculous. And I think it actually belittles the organisation that it's actually there to represent, and we'd encourage them to actually revisit that and try and have a good hard look at the facts and the science, rather than doing it from the desk of the UN.